Good morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host this morning. My name's Anna Short. I'm area partner for Greater Manchester and my business is Boom Marketing. So I'm joined by Sarah Small this morning, who is going to talk to us about how to boost productivity and organisation within our businesses. So Sarah is the absolute chief organiser, so I'm sure this will be a really useful session. If anybody's got any questions or comments, pop them in the chat or the Q&A and we'll cover those off as we go through. We're going to have quite a conversational session. So please do join in as much as possible.
Yeah, please ask. If we can help in any way or give little tips, then as I'm talking, then please do ask. So that'll be fantastic.
Yeah, and then as you know, we will be uploading the video afterwards onto the various channels if you're catching up. So I'll hand you over to Sarah now. Thank you.
Hello. Right, let me share my screen. I've had a complete nightmare this morning. So I'm sharing a PDF, but let's just hope. Can you see that, Anna? Is that all right?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. So I'm going to be talking today about how to hack your productivity and success. And I've got 3 key tips for you. So I want to talk to you about whether you want to be more productive in your business and get that long to-do list checked off, or perhaps you want shorter work days and a less stressful business. So today we're talking all about productivity, but it's not necessarily what you're expecting or what you always hear on the topic, because it's all about planning for productivity. And that's really important, because without the planning part of it, you're not going to be successful. So productivity doesn't just happen. It's always very purposeful, which is why you need a plan. And I'm going to talk about 3 things that you can do to create a very productive culture for your business. Creating a plan for what you're going to do takes the emotion out of deciding what to do when you sit down to work. And we've all had that. I'm sure that you've had that, Anna, when you sit down in the morning, you're like, oh my goodness, what do I start with? How do I start? So by having that plan, it allows you to get straight to work, do the things that are the priority for you for that day, and delegate to your team with confidence as well, or to the people that you work with. And when I talk about team, I'm not necessarily talking about an internal team. It doesn't matter the size of the business, but you might be working with an external team. You might have other freelancers or contractors on your team. It's the same thing. It's the same principle. And I saw a quote actually a few days ago when I was starting to put my notes together for this, and I quite like this. There are 2 things that are contagious in business: productivity and success. And productivity leads to a leaner business and shorter work days, and either then that gives you more money or more time, which is basically what everybody wants. It might be one or the other, it might be a mix of both, but ultimately more money and more time. So let me go into my next slide. So a little bit about me. Now, you might know me as Sarah as part of the Northern Affinity team. And yes, I do wear that hat. I am behind the scenes within Northern Affinity as well. But my other business, my main business is aDigitalMe. So I am a systems strategist, and that basically means I help find the right platform for you to become ultra productive and to connect your business at its very core. I'm also an operations director, so I help clients to strategize and manage the back end of their business. I like to describe that as being a strategic partner that allows them to take the time away from the day-to-day and focus on the growth. And we give our clients a greater sense of what's going on and what's about to happen, and we measure those outputs. And one of my clients has found that she's 30% more free during the week due to the changes that we've implemented. Now, that isn't by accident. That was by planning. That was by really delving deep, planning, and getting really granular on what she wanted to achieve. Our flexible remote business support team also provide the admin resource for the day-to-day things that just take up too much time and effort. And it's about focusing your time where you're going to make the most impact, hence why we exist. Because at the end of the day, especially with small growing businesses, you can't spread yourself too thin. It's impossible, and also you haven't necessarily got the expertise in every area. So my business, my team is all about being able to provide that expertise, being able to help you grow and focus on where your impact needs to be. So today I'm going to run through 3 hacks or key areas that are going to allow you to be a hell of a lot more efficient than you are right now. So we're going to cover off your ideal week, having and protecting your time, having a central place for your business information, and documenting your processes. So let's go on to my next slide. Okay.
Sarah, before you just get into that, what's got my attention already is the fact that you can state that one of your clients has saved 30% of their time through how you've helped them.
Incredible.
How have you measured that? How have you established that 30%?
So that has been via understanding the amount of time that they were previously spending on various different roles within their business. It's been about doing exactly what I'm talking about now, really delving deep on and understanding how to protect the time and putting in lots of white spaces. I'm going to come to that in a minute, but putting in where the client wanted to work, where the client didn't want to work, when they were both most I'm going to cover some of this off as we go through.
Fantastic.
But essentially what it's meant is that the time that they are now in the business is very focused, and so they've found that in terms of protection, it's just given them a whole different ball game to be able to spend on on developing new products and services. So
brilliant.
Right, okay, so prioritizing time is one of the best ways to get very real with your schedule, and it often starts with time blocking. You might have heard about this before. So what it means is we're going to set aside certain days of the week or the month to do specific tasks in your business, and organise your calendar so that your schedule, your booking system isn't necessarily wide open. Now, in order to create that ideal week for you, we're going to be looking at trying to create a map of how you're going to use your time throughout the week. And it's really important not just to do this, but also review it on a regular basis, because it forms that structure behind the scenes and it helps to protect you, which in turn makes you super focused, as I just said. So what I always suggest, spend some time thinking about when you are most productive. Now, that for some people might be that they're more creative in the morning, so they don't necessarily want to get on with the humdrum of business admin in the morning because they want to spend that on developing their products or services or doing some of their client work, depending on what their services actually are. It might be that they want to speak to clients towards lunchtime because they've settled into the day, everything's been planned out, and that feels like a good fit for them. It means that they're not sort of hitting the phones the minute that 9 o'clock comes around. You've had a chance to be able to settle in. And you also need to obviously think about if you want to do additional training or personal development or working on your business. Now, I'm actually reviewing some of this for myself at the moment, and I want to just show you that it doesn't need to be complicated. So I've just given you a very, very, very draft version of what I'm currently working on. And I want to show you that it really can be very, very basic when you start thinking about it. So protecting your time needs to include both personal and your professional obligations, and that's really important because at the end of the day, we don't just exist to work. We exist to do all the things that we want to do, such as be involved with the family, pick the kids up from school, do cooking if it inspires us, spend time with friends. It's all about that balance and of well-being. This, by the way, is nowhere near finished, and I need to be changing some of it. So yeah, this is very, very, very draft. But you also need to include some gaps as well. And the reason for that is you just cannot clear through your day without time to make a drink, have a breather, and things take off often longer than you anticipate. So having some white space in there is really important. So in terms of creating your ideal week, the steps that I would go through is create some sort of document. You can do it in Excel, you can write it down, just create a table. You could also create a separate calendar if you wanted, actually create a new calendar in your email and calendar system. And document and list your priorities. So what is it that is really important to you, those non-negotiables, and put those in first, and have a think about what those priorities are in this sort of season. And when I talk about that, so for example, if you are a working parent, it might be that through the summer holidays there are certain things that are going to be more important to you because you want to spend more time with your kids while they're off school. So it's really important to think about that sort of quarter maybe, and what might be happening. Often in my line of work, it tends to really pick up from between September and December, and then it really quietens down again at Christmas, and then it's nice and busy again in between January and April. And so my line of work generally does seem to fall within the school holidays, which is great for my planning because clients often want similar things. So you need to take those into account. I always recommend putting the absolute non-negotiables into your list first. So if you know that you want to exercise every day, put that in first. If that is absolutely key to you, it has to go in first. Put your family priorities in because everything else is going to work around that. Then after that, you want to add in your work time, and you might want to theme your days based on what you want to focus on each day of the week. So for example, I've worked with some people that only want to have client calls on 2 days of the week. They don't want to be able to spread them any further because it's really important to them that they can do the work in between the client calls. And so they focus very much on Tuesday is a client call day. Wednesday is working on the client work. And obviously this depends on the type of business you are. I suppose I'm referring at the moment to a service type business, but ultimately, it applies to everybody. So there is the option to theme it as well if you don't want to break it down the way, like the example that I've got on screen at the moment. Now, a really good way to sort of find the balance is to actually color code these, which I haven't done here. But for example, your personal commitments could be one color, your exercise might be a different color, your client calls might be a different color, and that will help you to be able to see right in front of you as you're drafting it out whether the balance is right in terms of what you've got and where the gaps are, and whether you're leaving enough space in between. So for example, if the exercise part of it is going to the gym, you might need to leave some space to get back from the gym before you pick up the phone to your client. So it's that type of thing. Things are going to take up and take longer than you expect and come up out of the blue. So yeah, the gaps are important. You can go as granular as you want in terms of the time space. I mean, I've just got it, you can see I've got half an hour there as I'm starting to work it out, but you can do it by hour, you can do it by half an hour, you can do it by 15 minutes, whatever is going to work for you. And that is the key. It doesn't matter if I give you a template, if that's not going to work for you, you've got to find your own way of being able to do that. So once you're happy with the spread of your week, then the next thing to do is to print it out or update your scheduling software. So I work with quite a lot of clients who use either Calendly or Acuity for their booking. So for example, if they've decided that a Tuesday is going to be a client call day between let's say 9:30 and 3:30, then they will then go and update their Calendly or Acuity to say that that's the available time for client calls, and they'll have a particular appointment in there that is specifically for client calls, which obviously then will match with the availability schedule. So it's really, really protecting the fact that people then won't be able to book in with you or book a meeting with you at times that you don't want them to. So that if that Monday is absolutely to work on your business, you can protect that, and it's okay to say no, and it's okay to say these are the days that I am available. So I think that's really important. I would also share that with your team. So if you've got your schedule set in stone, share it with your team, because they might find that they need you, but if they're then able to check with the schedule and know that you're going to not be disturbed between this time and this time, obviously that gives structure to your team as well. And the last point on this is that you need to review it regularly, and as I said, quarterly would be really great, in line with the changes in the year and what's going on. So that's a great way to do it. Okay, so let's move on to the next one.
Just on that, Sarah, how you mentioned Calendly and Acuity.
Yes.
I used to use Calendly, and then something I discovered that was suggested to me was, because I've got Office 365, there's a massive apps within that, isn't there, that we just don't sort of realise.
Yeah.
And somebody had mentioned bookings to me. So if you've got Office 365, there is an app within there called Bookings, and it does the same thing as Acuity and Calendly do. and allows you to set that time aside and block time out for, for those appointments. So it just saves that extra little cost really, and make the most of what you've got.
That's something that I talk to my clients about a lot, because it's all very well looking for the holy grail in terms of a system that's going to do absolutely everything for you. But the truth of the matter is, as most of my clients will know, and as Mike knows from work, for within the Mike Northern Affinity, that there's often levels at which the cost of a system for the functionality becomes unreasonable. So, it might well be that, it's reasonable and it's affordable at a certain level of functionality, but to take it to the next stage, some of them are ridiculously expensive. And also the functionality of one system in it, by itself, they're not always great. You might find that one system ticks 70% of your requirements, but it might have the functionality to do something else, but it's not wonderful at it. So I don't believe that there is a holy grail in terms of finding one system to encompass everything, and I would explore your options.
Yeah.
And then cost comes into that as well, because ultimately, everybody has a budget to, for platforms out there, and you could be spending lots of money on lots of different platforms and subscriptions that perhaps you don't need to do. I always say there's always a workaround, and you've just got to do what's within your budget and what feels right.
Yeah.
So okay, so central station. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Well, this is a centralized place for all things business. So I'm sure that everybody watching this and everybody in business knows that it's no secret that running a business efficiently, you need to have a lot of information, and having a hub with that sort of commonly requested information, even if it's from yourself, is a real time saver. Because I'd ask you, I say you, this is a metaphorical question, but how many of your systems and processes are stored in your head and they never see the light of day? I suspect with most people that's quite a lot.
I'll not answer that.
Yeah, and often too many business owners put off the thought of bringing other people in, because the idea in their minds, the thought of teaching them something that only exists in their head is overwhelming and scary. And I get that. I totally understand that. And it's very, very common. But deeper than that, a central station, a central hub allows you to have one place where all your important information lives, so that when you do bring on new team members, or when you bring on a new client, there's less stress on you to find information or spend hours digging. I spoke to a prospect a couple of weeks ago, and this actually horrified me. She said it took her an hour to find an email with wording that she wanted to use again. An hour searching through her emails. And I sort of joked and said, wow, that'd take me 30 seconds. And, joking about it, but the truth is it would, because any nuggets of anything that is useful goes into my central hub. I have template wording. I can't even tell you how big my vault is. It's massive. And it's really important, because I can search for anything within probably 15 seconds. And I can tweak it, I can change it, I can go back to it, I can refer to it. Little thing, when I'm online networking, and I know some people do this. Obviously, you've got your chat open and people are introducing themselves. I have got a little spiel that I can copy and paste into there with all my links and everything. It's dead easy. I know a lot of people do that, but is it somewhere that's really easily accessible to you? Is it somewhere that, whatever it is, can you share it easily? So that's my point, really, having this central place. And what you can include in your central station, so there are some basics that I would recommend, things like your bio, photos, important links, testimonials, your branding information, any policies that you've got or contract documents. I've got an example of what this can look like. So let me just move on to the next slide. So I've given you an example here. This is in Trello, but you can use whatever platform you find most comfortable. Trello is a great one. Asana is fantastic. I'm an Asana certified pro. I do love Asana because I think it is very functional without being overwhelming. You could have a central hub in your Google Drive or your Office 365. You might find ClickUp works better for you. Like, it doesn't matter, whatever, but it's about having a central place. And once you've got the basics in place, you can start categorizing it a bit more. And I've got a few more examples on here. So you can see that I've got here contact information, branding, passwords, process workflows, courses, freebies, social stuff, templates and swipe files, links, testimonials, programs that you use, products and services. It can be literally anything. And it's just about keeping it in one place, because honestly, you'll thank yourself for it when it takes you 30 seconds next time instead of the hour that it might have taken you 2 weeks ago. So that's my thing. And once you've got the basics in there, it's good practice to start categorizing your business. So for example, you might decide to break it down into the types of roles that you might play within the business. So sales, you could start breaking your business down into those areas. Finance, marketing, operations. And then within each of those categories, you can break it down even further and go even more granular, and start recording the detail, which is going to bring me to my next slide about documenting it. So we talked before about keeping those processes and in your head, those checklists, that how you do things, it's all in your head, and it's taking valuable space. And if you start documenting and have a place to be able to document this, the quality systems that you put in place basically allow you to delegate tasks a lot easier. Okay, whether that's to your external team, your internal team, whoever that is. Now, a word that is bandied around quite a lot these days is standard operating procedures, SOPs. I don't want that to sound complicated, it's not. An SOP, a standard operating procedure, is basically how you do something. So it's a fancy word for processes, for checklists, for linking, and it means, like I said, that you can delegate very easily. So start documenting the tasks that are outside. This is a really great place to start, that are outside your zone of genius, your comfort zone, or the things that you just don't enjoy doing. Next time you do it, write it down. What are you doing? What are the steps? It can be bullet points. It can just be a list. It can be a checklist. It doesn't have to be complicated. Another good way to do it, alongside that, I mean, I know there are different ways that people learn, and I know that I've been reading about the millennials, like the video content, they tend to learn better from that. So you might choose to use a screen capture software that allows you to video your screen whilst you're talking through what happens. I think that's very valuable, but I also do think that having something written down is really important as well, because you can start to link it, which I'm going to come on to in a minute. So my suggestion is that start by documenting one repeatable process that you're currently doing, but that you want to outsource. Write down every single step in that process, create a checklist, capture your screen with a recording and an explanation, and put it into this central station. I'm just going to show you a bit of an example on this, so just hold on 1 second. Okay, so this is within Asana. I want to just show you this bit here. So this is really basic. It's a client onboarding process. It's relevant to lots of people. It's relevant to to lots of people, especially in the service industry. But you can see that within Asana, I've actually linked it here. So what I'm suggesting on top of the documenting it, link the documents that you need, the forms that you need, the checklist that you might need in there, because then it's easy to find. So for me, if I needed to click on that, it would take me exactly where I needed to go. I don't have to even think about it. I'd have to think, oh gosh, where is that link? I just literally click on it and I can duplicate it. Dead simple, 3 seconds, done. And this is something I do with lots of clients when they're building out their operating system. So we want to make it so easy that when someone has a basic overview of your business, they can dive in and follow those instructions and only be asking minimal questions. That is the ultimate goal. Now, it takes time. Not going to lie about that. It does take time, because what you think you do and what you actually do, and then how your processes organically change over time, it's not something that once it's done, it does require a review. So I would suggest that you could then share that process with someone who's unfamiliar how you do things. It might be somebody that you work with, it might be somebody in your team, and let them give you feedback about if it's confusing, if anything's missing, what might work better. And this is all going to help streamline that process so that you can share it as time goes on. And then that essentially is an SOP. It's simple as that. It sounds scary, but actually it's not. Think about it. What do I do when and then start writing a list. So getting systems in place means that you can save time, you can save money, and focus on the things that are working for you. But I'm going to reiterate this. If you feel that you're not taking care of your business operations like you should, it's okay to take it one step at a time. Just start with one small task. You'll find that it starts to snowball. Your efforts after, you get into the habit of it and you think, actually, I'm going to do that at the same time. And then when you hire somebody to fill that role or to take over that task, just leave a bit of space for them to ask the questions or to develop or continue developing those SOPs for themselves. And, you've got a really, really strong framework to run your business on. So, final slide. So I've purposely kept this quite succinct, this how-to. It can be overwhelming to overhaul your business, but the purpose of today was to give you 3 areas to work on incrementally. So start with your time, get somewhere central to share your information, and document your processes. And I promise you that if you do work on these one bit at a time over the next quarter, you will be in a healthy position to grow your team, your time, your income, your services, whatever that is, whatever's important to you. And I'm more than happy. I don't know whether there's any questions, Anna, but if there's anything that anyone would like to discuss with me, including getting hold of my freebie, which is how to take complete control of your working day, then please get in touch either via this video or by contacting the Northern Affinity for my details, because I'm more than happy to help. It's not, if you're not naturally organised, these things can be a bit overwhelming, but actually it's often the small things that make the big difference.
Definitely. We've not got any questions through at the moment, Sarah, but I've got one for you.
Please do.
Because I think with me being from a corporate background and kind of having the freedom to go against all of those things that I was forced to do in the past.
Yeah.
I do enjoy having some structure, but I very much want that choice to please myself a bit at the same time as well. Yeah. And I suspect there's other people similar to me, and it is a bit of a battle that you have with yourself in kind of pushing against that corporate side of things that's been sort of instilled within you over years and years.
I get that.
So I kind of really push in the opposite direction, and I'm finding myself now that I need to kind of just bring myself back a bit and stop being so rebellious.
I totally get that, and I had that battle with myself as well. What I will say is that having the structure does, in some ways, in a weird way, set you more free, because if you know that, for example, you don't want to work Fridays, and that's important to you, fine. Don't work Fridays. You've got that choice. You might then swap it to another day, one day a week. But if you've got the right structure for the rest of the week, you know that your work's going to get done. The business will continue, or that your team can continue because you've done what you need to do. So I think that structure sounds scary. I want to be a free spirit, but the truth is, if you're running a business, there's things to do and there's things that need to happen. So, in some ways, by being strict with the time that you want to work, it's going to give you more freedom.
Yes. Yeah. No, definitely.
And that's the same applies to the productivity part of it as well, which is why I'm always about documenting and keeping it central, because it's the same thing. It's going to save you time, which that gives you the flexibility, doesn't it?
It does. And I love how you've kind of established that quick route for reaching into things that you want on hand and to share with others as well. And I think particularly when you work on your own, you kind of think, oh, it's all right because it's just me. Well, no, there's always going to come a point where there's some bits of work that like you mentioned, that zone of genius you start to want to focus on those areas of work where you know you're best placed, and you want to get other people involved then.
Yeah. And they might only be small, and that's okay if they're only small bits. You know, you might not be wanting to build an empire, but ultimately there's always times when we need to ask people for help. And I'm going to really take it sort of, you know, to that it might only be small. If you've got IT issues, you need to go to an IT expert. And we've got obviously Andy Hogg, who is one of our area partners in Northern Affinity. Now, if you have your details to hand of the systems that you're using and the platforms that you're using, how easy is it going to be able to say to Andy, right, I've got this problem, here are my login details, these are the platforms I use, it's all here, I can just hand it over to you, you know, please could you help me solve this problem? Rather than him having to spend hours deep diving, resetting passwords, you know, do you know what I mean? It's little things like that. It's still the same principle.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's I find that really useful, you know, and just covering off those 3 areas. I most like the fact that you have that white space within that schedule as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm definitely, I need to work on mine over this next couple of weeks. It's I think for a lot of us it's been pushed out slightly by the whole homeschooling over the past few months, and
COVID, homeschooling, and just working for yourself. Things creep up on you before you know it sometimes, and you've kind of got to keep reminding yourself and bringing yourself back and making sure that you're taking time for yourself and looking after yourself. You know, and having a proper break. You know, I loved the fact that you've got lunch in there, you know, because it is like you do have to remind yourself of the simple things in life.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right, well, unless there's any other questions, I'm more than happy for us to finish. And you know, unless anyone's got anything else that they'd like to ask, I know we've got a few people, a few attendees at the moment. I know that some people choose to watch it later, which is fine. So if anyone does have any questions that we haven't covered, please do get in touch, and I'd be more than happy to help.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll be uploading the video later today for people to recap and watch as well, because I'm sure it'll be useful for them. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Anna. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.